we don't even have money for diapers, dude. Where do you think we're going to get $200? I closed my first wholesale deal in 29 days and I made $600. And everybody goes, oh my gosh, that's nothing. Well, at that time, $600 was all I needed. The next month, we made $34,000 in wholesale fees alone. We have 50 rental properties. It's the silver tsunami right now. There's people out there with businesses to sell and real estate portfolios to sell. The limiting factor is not money or deals or anything like that. The limiting factor is almost always in your mind.
Welcome back to The Broke Billionaires, where we document our daily struggles in building wealth while raising a young family. Join us as we talk creative wealth building for everyday people and couples that are struggling in a down economy. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Joshua Masari, and we'll be your hosts.
So today we have Brandon and Chessie Hollabaugh. Welcome, you guys. We're so excited to have you on our show today.
Thanks. We're excited to be here.
Thank you.
Excited to dive in and see what you guys have going on.
So I was brand new in the Navy. We had just gotten married and got relocated to Florida. I was enlisted in the Navy, so made, very little money. And right off the bat, we didn't have help from parents, or anything like that. And, we bought cars and then the cars would have problems. And then you put that on a credit card, the repair on a credit card. And then you have a baby and now you need baby stuff and you put that on a credit card. And so very quickly, I think within the first couple years of marriage, we were like $50,000 in debt. And I was just like, I was like, how am I going to pull us out of this? And so, I like the word broke, Lauren. I think broke is, kind of Robert Kiyosakiism is it's a temporary, financial position, whereas poor is more of a state of mind. And so we were broke and I knew it. And I was like, okay, I know we can figure this out. And so I had gone on this deployment and I left my poor wife with new baby. So,
Typical.
on deployment, I read all these real estate books about wholesaling. And there was this guy in Tampa who was claiming he was making all this money with no invested capital. And I knew we didn't have invested capital and we didn't have friends or family who are wealthy. And so I was like, okay, this sounds ridiculous, but it seems like this guy's doing it. So when I got back, I told her, I said, I want 2 months and I want $200 and I'm going to wholesale a house.
We did not have $200.
We didn't have $200. And she's like, we don't even have money for diapers, dude. Where do you think we're going to get $200? And I was like, look, I just want to buy these little plastic signs and then this little software to help me, find owners and track down owners and a wholesale house. And she goes, I'll give you $100 and 1 month. And if you don't wholesale a house, you need to forget about that real estate investment stuff and you need to focus on promoting in the Navy, which is our bread and butter. So hit the streets, found my first wholesale deal. I closed my first wholesale deal in 29 days and I made $600. Only $600, right? And everybody goes, oh my gosh, that's nothing. Well, at that time, $600 was all I needed. It was, I still say to this day, that $600 check was the sweetest money I've ever made because it gave me the confidence to realize I had found this repeatable process.
Made something out of
nothing and I could do this over. And so that was the first month wholesaled $600 worth of real estate. The next month we made $34,000 in wholesale fees alone. I had left a career. I was law enforcement. I was investigator with the Colorado State Patrol, and we live in Colorado still. And we had decided to step away from that career, which was a big, scary, chunky thing to do in our life, especially with, 4 kids and bills to pay. And we decided to go all in and start flipping houses. And that first flip, we did everything with our own money, mostly with my own hands and my own time. And I think initially there was a lot of self-doubt there. And through the whole process, I was like, man, was this the right decision? And, you just keep on pressing. But yeah, I think that initially, there was a lot of self-doubt to work through. And as you go, you sort of learn little lessons that build your confidence. And then you have other things that kind of make your confidence dip a little bit. But ultimately, early on, I think is when I really was challenged with that question of, do I have what it takes? Do I have the grit that it takes to build a business and to push through the tough, sort of the non-pretty stuff of being an entrepreneur? And so that first house, that was a doozy. And then we finally got it flipped and got it to where we put it back on market. And then we got the inspection report back when we had a buyer and they were like, oh, we want you to fix all this stuff. And I'm like, no, but it's just kind of part of how it goes with flips, as you guys know. So I'd say that was probably pretty close to where I was.
Did I hear that correctly that you quit with the police department before you did this first house? You weren't doing it simultaneously?
No, yeah, I jumped out completely, and it's funny. We had always been in real estate, sort of as our side gig, or business, and we had started in 2010. We started wholesaling properties when I was still active duty in the Navy. Um, but over time, I worked myself into a good spot as an investigator, good pay, bad schedule, terrible schedule, getting called out all the time. And so, you know, um, I talked to Chessie. I said, I think I want to try real estate full time. And she was like, well, I've been waiting for you to say that. Let's do it. And I was like, wow, that was like confirmation I didn't expect, and it kind of shows how great as a partner she is, in her confidence in me and in what we could create. But I resigned from the State Patrol in 2022, and we went into real estate full time. And I remember waking up like the night after it was like my last day. It's like in the middle of the night, I woke up sweating, like, oh my God, did I do something really dumb? Sacrificed all of our stability, and it's been great, but I remember having that massive, like, "Oh my gosh, what did we do?" And I woke her up. I'm like, "What did we do? Was this a good idea?" So
Oh, yeah, we were laying in bed together, and I remember it was just, like, quiet, and we both kind of were like, "Did we just mess up?" 'Cause it's just scary stuff, when you don't have a normal job and a normal paycheck, and when you have children involved, and you're just like, "Yep, that's always been us, like, it's all or nothing, like, we're going in head first," and we both knew that. I think we were both like, "We have no choice but to make this work."
the paradigm shift for me was I was working on 4th of July, and I was going out to, I used to investigate fatal crashes, so I was part of the crash investigation team, and we had this triple fatal in Silverton, Colorado, near where we live. And so I was driving out there. Well, I decided to call my little brother, who's also in real estate and who had been flipping houses successfully for a couple years at that point. And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, or no, I asked him, I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "What do you think I'm doing? I'm at a barbecue. I'm drinking a beer. I'm with people I love. And he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going out to this crash. You should feel glad that I'm out here fighting crime or something, just joking around with him." And he goes, "Man, why are you doing that?" I said, "What are you talking about? This is my job. This is the career I've chosen." And he's like, "No, I mean, like, why are you continuing to be a state trooper?" He goes, real estate. You could do that full time like I do." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought of that. And that right after that was when I had the conversation with Jesse about, maybe, uh, and what we did is we cashed out my retirement, another risky move and, another big, big fee you pay. And we used that money as our seed capital to start, BNC Real Estate Solutions. Our first one was a single wide mobile home, which in our market, Colorado, I mean, you guys are in California, you're in an expensive market too, but stuff's just expensive here. And mobile homes are like the affordable housing solution where we're at. We're in a little ski vacation town. We thought we'd
Silverton, you said
make,
Silverton. I've actually always wanted to go there. I've been to Telluride, but I've never been to Silverton. I want to do the guided tours. Like one of those days, I'll make it there.
yeah, well, we're actually in Durango, Colorado, which is, right near Silverton.
Okay,
But
yeah, I've done
Durango's,
Durango.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little ski town, cute little town. A lot of people move here to retire. Um, but the first one we were able to snag was a single wide mobile home, and this thing looked. We joked about it being out of something out of like The Exorcist or something because there were like mirrors glued to the ceiling and the
Oh,
walls.
nice.
Right, Chessie was like, "I'm gonna get my Bible," and, it was like, "Go into this place." It was pretty rough, and, we thought we'd make $35,000 on it, which, was a where I felt good, entry level. We ended up making $18,000 on it, and so I was pretty discouraged on that one right off the bat, because you're all excited, you're going in full head of steam, and then you don't make what you wanna make.
It sits on the market,
Sits
you
on the
do some
market.
price reductions, and we were on our anniversary trip, our first anniversary trip since he had, like, stopped working a 9 to 5, and we were on this trip, and I remember us just, like, sitting there, and I was just like, "Man, I would feel a lot more relaxed if, like, this house would just sell."
Yes. Yeah.
And I called my sister-in-law, who also, like, her husband's the one who does the flips, and she's like, "It's real estate, like, drop it $5,000 every 2 weeks until it sells. And that's what it is. And I was just like, $5,000. Oh my gosh, that's so much of our livelihood. Like, because he did all the work himself. Like, I remember being like, I don't know what we signed up for because he quit his job and he's still gone like actually 14 hours a day now working on this little mobile home. And we just had this talk like, like the same thing, like kind of what do we get ourselves into? Our numbers are getting tighter. It's very nerve wracking. And tell him what your brother said about that.
I talked to my brother about it, who had been flipping houses, and he goes, I said, I made 18,000. I really want to make 35,000. He's like, well, congratulations. He goes, you made money, man. You're a real
Mhm.
estate investor. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. He goes, stop licking your wounds and get the next one and jump right into the next one.
You paid for your lessons.
Yeah. And, we always say you got to pay for your education. And
Mhm.
usually it comes in the form of mistakes made through the process. And that's where you really make your money.
Yeah.
It's not the profit. Everybody quantifies the profit and goes, oh, well, this is how well we did. On that first one, we learned so much. And, going into the second one, we had a lot more confidence.
Just a quick disclaimer. The information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Your individual circumstances may differ and require specific strategies not discussed here. Now, let's get back to the show.
Real estate can be a team sport. That was a big one for us. Like at first, we were like, we have to do all the work ourselves and keep every dollar in the system.
We ended up connecting with a friend of ours who was willing to invest with us, and that was a whole nother conversation. He I had been doing just some side jobs for him, and I told Jesse one day, I said, "Hey, I'm going to go talk to our friend and ask him if he'll invest with us." And she goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I just need to do it." She's like, "Okay, let me know how that goes." And so I went and approached him and told him, we want to flip houses on a larger scale, and not just flip houses, but buy rental properties and do value adds and stuff like that. And he took a day to think about it. He called me. He goes, "Let's do it. I'm in." And so that changed the momentum for sure from using our retirement account to actually having access to some hard or some private money and moving things much quicker.
Well, and the
Yeah, for
backstory
sure.
is that we've asked so many people prior too. Like this wasn't like we asked one hard money lender and he said yes. Like we had approached so many people and they're like, no, no, we're not, we're not in that place. And so it gets discouraging when you're like, oh man, this is supposed to be like, where are all these hard money lenders people are talking about? Are they? And so we got a lot of no's. And so whenever he called me and he's like, hey, this person is like in, they said, let's do it. I was like, oh my gosh. Like I was in shock. I was like, I cannot believe this. Like this is crazy. So
Yeah.
it's awesome.
That's cool. So fast forward, how many flips have you guys done as of today?
I think we've probably done close to 50 at this point.
So you have rental properties as well. How many rental properties do you have currently?
We have 50 rental properties, and this year specifically, we're trying to double down. So we're trying to go to 100 by the end of calendar year 26. We also have a really huge referral program. So everybody who knows us knows if they bring us a deal that's a good flip and we close on it, we'll give you $1,000 finder's fee. And so that's just enough for people to pay attention. And we get, I mean, that's like the majority of our lead generation.
Splitting your profits, but you are, contracting out the work and you are even hiring a different real estate agent in Colorado Springs. Like I don't want to list the stuff that we do in the Springs because I'm not there and I'm not local and I don't know the area as much. It's like even if our profits are less, but we're more efficient, real estate absolutely can be a team sport. And I shifted so much from that in the beginning where I was like, we have to keep every dollar to ourselves and everything like, our education and all that stuff. And it's like, it's been so much more profitable when we've been like, hey, let's share the knowledge, the wealth.
We're really big on creative financing too. In fact, we've done a lot of really creative financing stuff with seller finance and capital stacking. Right now, I'm probably in the midst of one of the more creative ones. We're going after a 21 unit office park. So this will be like we have a couple commercial deals, but this will be our first commercial office space. Um, but it was we basically were wanting to go after seller financing, but there was a couple mortgages already attached, couple liens already attached to the property. And so we came up with this deal where we were going to wrap the other two mortgages. And that was the initial plan, wrap the mortgages. But then if we transfer the deed into our business name, we could trigger the due on sales clause. And so now we've come up with the idea to do a lease with a purchase option, 5 years, and then every payment buys a portion of equity. And so, just divide it up and, whatever we get to at the end of those 5 years, I could execute my purchase option and I'll already have purchased a ton of equity in the deal. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're always going after seller financing. I mean, it's the silver tsunami right now. There's people out there with businesses to sell and real estate portfolios to sell. Um, I just had one the other day, that referral program we're talking about. One of our general contractors gave me a fourplex and he said, "Hey man, 15 years ago, I used to do maintenance on this fourplex. You need to check it out. It looks like garbage. The guy who owns it is an older guy, lives down in New Mexico. You should check it out and call him." So I check it out. Sure enough, it's a really ugly fourplex with two beautiful brand new apartment buildings on each side of it. So definitely a great snag if I can get it for the right price. So I called that guy and he called me back and he said, "Hey, you're the first human being to call me on this property. I get mailers all the time and I get robots calling me, but you're the first actual human. And I like that." And so I said, "Well, what do I'd like to buy it from you. Would you sell it?" And he goes, "Well, I actually want to sell all my rental portfolio." And he has 19 properties. He goes, "I'm retired and I'm ready to be fully retired. And I can't do that until I get rid of these rental properties." I said, "Well, would you be interested in carrying the note and seller finance me on it?" And he said, "I wouldn't have it any other way." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, what if I didn't have any money down? I'm not saying I don't, but what if I didn't?" He goes, "I don't think that'd be a problem if we can come up with the right terms." And then, the more we talk, the more I'm like, "What if I just replace the cash flow that you currently have on the property? Would that make you happy?" And he goes, "I'd be thrilled. If I can make the same amount and be guaranteed every month, even if, someone misses a rent payment, I would be thrilled to take that." And so we're slowly starting to whittle down these terms that will make it a win for both sides. But, my thought on that is always make it a win for both sides. The limiting factor is not money or deals or anything like that. The limiting factor is almost always in your mind.
Branched out into a different location. We bought it sight unseen for us. It was through a wholesaler. And we were like running the numbers and we were like, oh, this is like a slam dunk, right? Like it's going to be completely fine. There's no way we can go wrong, all of this stuff. And we had an inspector go take a look at it and he was like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, sounds good. Well, I go there, I drive to Colorado Springs to take a look at it in person
After we
after we
closed
closed on
on
it
it.
to kind of come up with some design ideas and all of that. And I called him like crying right away. And I was like, we really messed up on this. Like we bought it probably 50,000 too high. It needs so much. There's so many red flags with the way the grading is in the backyard. Like our budget is way too low for this. It is not a good purchase. And we listed that one. We got it done. We listed that one at 630,000, and we just reduced it to 499. So that's fun, and it's still on the market right now.
Well, and the inspector who inspected it was someone I've known my whole life and that had his own a home inspection business at one point in his life. And so it was like, that's the person who's supposed to tell you, don't go, go, no go. And we were already branching into the Colorado Springs market, which is about 5.5 hours away from us. We're just trying to get out into some bigger metro areas. And that was our second deal there. Our first one went okay. We definitely, I shouldn't say it went okay. It went well. We made money on it and did well and got it turned quickly. But that one it's not moved. We've had problem after problem. And so this will be our first one that we lose money on. So
And
That
we
was
just
actually
broke
going to be
into
my. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we did that 499 and we were like, okay, now we're officially in the negative. All of our profits that were there, we are officially in the negative at this point. We have also tied up, $500,000 of our investable cash for this thing to sit on the market at this point. We're losing more money. And it's been a really hard lesson on that one. And that lesson was like, never buy anything you can't see in person for us. And that's not like always a long-term goal. We hope that we can get there eventually with how we want to branch out. But for us, I was like, man, I feel like I have to see these in person right now just to make sure I feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this on the call that I had with Brandon, but I do a lot of out of state investing and have been for a long time. And I have, like, for example, I have a portfolio in South Carolina that we've been doing for what, eight years now. But I have somebody that I personally know. I've actually never been to South Carolina ever, and we've bought and sold probably a dozen properties there. But we have somebody that I know and trust that I actually went to school with, who's now out there, is a realtor, an investor, and so she'll go walk the properties. She'll FaceTime me, and she'll tell me all those things that you don't see in the pictures, and you can't. The smells that you wouldn't know, the floor that's not sturdy, like all the the grading and found all these things that an inspector might miss. Because I've done inspections and like we've had inspectors miss major slab issues, like major issues, and so you can only rely on a inspector so much. I mean, they're trained to do their job, but there's certain things that they're not going to catch, or they're not looking for those smells. That's usually not something that they're going to tell you about or going to note, but you don't see that in the picture. So being able to buy out a state and have people on the ground that we can rely on has been huge for us, because I've nine of us have never been to South Carolina, and we've got all these properties there. So it can be done, but you definitely have to make sure you've got your team in place that you know and trust, to make sure that things don't fall through like that.
Yeah, building out the team was, that was one of the challenges there. We kind of had our boots on the ground just initially, but that person had their own job, so they were doing project management for us part-time and trying to rely on them and hoping that
Yeah, I
they
think
were
that was
paying
the hard
attention.
part, is that person should have been the person that we trusted. Like, that was the relationship that we had, so we put a lot of trust into their decisions and things like that, and then, like I said, when you go there and it was very much different than what you anticipated. Yeah, our goal is to build that up again, have
Yeah.
but right now I am feeling a little
Well, we
jaded.
we pulled the plug on it temporarily. All right, that's enough. Right now,
Yeah, well,
we're in the
sometimes you got to do it yourself. Get your processes in place, know what you're looking for, and then get get your SOPs figured out, what to look for, and then you can transfer that to somebody else and make sure that they're trained on what you would be looking for when you're there. So you'll get there, but yeah, sometimes you just got to take the reins yourself and not lose more money.
make money in any market. So you have a lot of people, in the multifamily space right now. Oh, rents are down nationwide. It's super risky to buy, apartment buildings right now. If you have some creativity and you can have the right partnerships and the right team, you can make money in any market, even a down market. Design your business around your life, not your life around your business. Your business should be complementary to what really matters, which is your family and your life and your loved ones. And so I think that was probably the big sacrifice early on, was having to learn that lesson kind of the hard way. And fortunately, I have a tough wife who holds me very accountable, and is like, hey, dude, this is not what we signed up for. You're not in the military anymore. You're not a police officer anymore. And so it didn't take long for me to kind of pull my head out. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of investors and entrepreneurs go through that. You start a business or you become a real estate investor to create financial freedom and time freedom. And you get sucked in and you're working 14, 16 hours a day. You got to get it going. But then you kind of pull back and be like, okay, I need to kind of rebuild and build this around my lifestyle and buy back that time.
Stopping to celebrate. And at one point, she says to me, like, hey, we just closed, like our biggest deal. I think our biggest flip, we made like $250,000. And that was probably just last year. I think it sold last year.
Mhm.
Anyway, and I was like, man, we're not even pausing. We're so
We're, like,
caught
under
up.
contract on the next,
Yeah,
like,
we're
we're,
so
like,
caught up in the
instantly
hustle.
into it, and
Yeah,
I was like,
like, we need to pause and toast to this.
"We didn't
And
even cheers to this." Like, we're really going at it, and it's like, we have to learn to take a step back and be like, all the things that we once prayed for, all the things that we have been working hard for. And like when you quit that job in 2022 and you think like, oh my gosh, we're going to be rich, like 18,000 in one flip, like we're really going to, and like they don't talk about all of the craziness and the taxes and all the things that continue to happen that bump you back down. And you're like, wow, if I would have known getting into this as an entrepreneur, how much freaking grit and determination this would have taken, maybe I would have thought a little harder. But now looking back, it's like we still have challenges. But the fact that we're able to be like, this last week, our daughter graduated and we were both like, oh, we have this going on and you need to do this and you need to do that. And he looked at me and he goes, Chessie, like, let's give ourselves some grace. Let's just like pump the brakes on work. Let's get our house where it needs to be. This is a big deal. Like our daughter is graduating. And it was just that's the kind of freedom that really for me, like outside of money, it's like we get to be there. We get to be present. We get to like celebrate our girl and never risk, not being there for something. And that goes a lot further than money.
I feel like what you guys are talking about is funny because we go through right now. We've been in a build phase the last 5 years of just building up equity, and that's been our main focus. And so now we're kind of at a turning point where we're pulling money out, selling some properties, and we're kind of making that shift to, okay, now let's create more cash flow versus just building equity. We've done very well the last 5 years. I mean, a lot of people did, but we had some very large properties that we were holding during that time. So we did really, really well. And now we're kind of like making this shift. Okay, let's shift more to cash flow and start creating more financial freedom. And then, we've got the time freedom now. So we're kind of making that shift into that to kind of enjoy why we started doing this in the first place. Who wants to reach out? They're in your area, want to touch base with you. What's the best way to connect with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to share my email, BC Real Estate Solutions 23@gmail with everybody. Also, you can find us on social media. I have mine under Brandon Hollabaugh. I think I'm the only Brandon Hollabaugh in the universe. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we love connecting with people. We are very passionate at this point. We're sort of making a shift from focusing on building our real estate venture, and we're focusing more on the educational side. And I think one of the most gratifying things for me and definitely Chessie too is seeing people, investors that we're mentoring, get wins. And so I think that's my passion has always been education and teaching people. And so we absolutely love connecting with people. We're totally open to collaborating or being on podcasts or anything that we could do to add value. I think in this point in our career, it's like, how can we add value to others? And I know that always just comes around. Good
When somebody has a deal in your area, there's $1,000 bird dog waiting for you.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on today. Thanks so much for sharing knowledge. This will be a really good show and help a lot of people out. Any last words from you?
No, thank you. It was so great meeting you guys and getting to hear your story.
It was so fun. Appreciate you
Thank you,
guys' time.
guys.
I'm glad we could be here.
All right, guys. Get out there and make it happen.
Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Rebuilding the Dream Studios.